There we are. Takes a while, YouTube. We're having technical difficulties this week, people. Let me move this around a little bit. There we go. Let me get to my live on the desktop so I can set up the chat. Oh, let's see. Hey, Gelsers, you're the first one here, my dear. Let me just get this chat set up on the computer that's right in front of me. I was wondering if it's new. Could it be time for a new hype horn? Oh, it just disappeared. Now I've got a furniture ad. Let's try this again. Hey, Will Byers. Hey, Leanne. Hey, Nanette. Let me just get this thing set up. Oh, boy. YouTube. A lot of things across the internet are not working today, too, I notice. I'm not sure why that is. Okay, I just set the goal for like 30 minutes. And let me get the chat caught up on my screen. Hey, Sandra. Hey, Rose Margaret. Howdy, howdy. Cali Girl on Fire. Well, I've already got 5 thumbs up and I just started. Yeah, my camera looks like it's sitting a little crooked today. This is kind of a slow news day on Nancy Guthrie. I put it in the chat how many days, or not the chat, I put it on the thumbnail. I think it was 149. I'll have to check that. Sometimes it's not in my titles, it's just like in my thumbnail. And then I forget. Hey, Lynn Rod. Thank you for becoming a member, my friend. Hey, PI fans. Yeah, welcome in the PI posse. Or the Hollywood Sleuths. Whatever you guys want to be called. Hi, Nicola. I kind of like the PI posse. That's kind of unusual. And I don't want to be like April's Army because then it'll sound too much like JLR Investigates. And, you know, I don't want to like copy anybody else's, channel. Thank you, Kelsers. 25 people in the house. Let me just get this started. Like I said, it's a slow news day, but let's get it going. I'm April Davis, PI. I'm a licensed California private investigator. I have been reporting on the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping case since February 2nd, 2026. And it looks like I forgot to turn off my notifications. So let me do that on my screen so my phone doesn't ring or no alarms go off. Mark, you tried to call me earlier. I don't have a public phone number and my phone didn't ring. So send me an email. April's posse, yeah. Chat GPT came up with, April's PI posse. That was like their number one choice. Their number two choice was the Hollywood Sleuths. But you know what? This is not just about me being a PI, or it's not about true crime. It's, it's just a way for me to document my life since I recovered from my breast cancer. Of course, that was before, all the side effects showed up and I just started going down the hill. April's PI posse, or the PI posse, or just PI posse. Who knows? Well, let's get it started. Okay. There's not a lot of news on her today. Like I said, I think it's day number 149. We're almost into the beginning of the 6th month. Yeah, because we're almost through June. So the 5th month is almost complete. So another 2 days, it'll be day 1, the start of month 6. Like, it'll be 5 months in a day. Like, I can't believe that. Let me take somebody out. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Craziness. So a lot of people are talking about these ransom notes, as I have on the last several lives. And somebody did a video, I'm not sure who, but somebody else, I don't know who that person is either, broke it down on like Reddit. And it was all regarding that second ransom note that nobody knew about the contents of that note until the end of last week, where it basically said, we're sorry, but we're not sorry. But, she was accidentally unalived. You know what I'm talking about. And that went to KOLD, but it didn't go to the other news station, and it didn't go to TMZ. I mean, they knew that there was a second ransom out there, but nobody knew what was in that ransom until the end of last week. And they're kind of sorry, not sorry, and she's unalived, and it was accidental, and blah, 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 blah. We've talked about it. But somebody did a recap and said that allegedly CBS will be releasing the full text. Now, I haven't had a chance to look yet, but is KOLD, the local news station in Tucson, is that a CBS affiliate? I'll have to check. It's the one where Brianna Whitney, she used to work for, but now she's got like some sort of a podcast. I guess she, I guess she thinks she's famous now because of this case, and she's already moved on from the station that she worked for. And somebody said that CBS will be releasing the full text. I don't know how they would know that. Kinsley P. LOL. Who is Kinsley? Who are you, Kinsley? I haven't seen you before. I've seen Kelsers, and then we have a Kinsley. That's kind of like freaking me out because of Kelsa Kinsley. Do we have a ghost in the chat? Hey, Nate. How you doing? I think it's an NBC affiliate. Okay, thank you, Leanne. She moved on now so she can say what she knows. Well, I hope she doesn't say too much if, could compromise the integrity of the case. But somebody did a recap. You're not a ghost. Oh, thank God. Couldn't handle that right now. It's just that we have, Kelsers, and then we have a Kinsley, and my friend that died is Kelsa Kinsley. And that was just like back to back, like, oh my God, like, what is going on? Welcome in Mostly Dolls Helicopters, who just sent me the first jewel of the day, the gold coin. Thank you so much. KOLD is CBS in Tucson. Okay, I was thinking that because I was going to research that, but there was a lot of other business I had to handle today. I've been having problems with, trying to get people to credit me for things and trying to get my medical orders, which I still haven't had. That's a different story. But I read this and somebody did a whole write-up about it. And it was kind of interesting. And I don't know who this person is, but they just kind of put an interesting spin on it. And by the way, apparently over the weekend, Sheriff Nanos made a statement about the Bitcoin guy ransoms, not the original 1 and 2 ransoms from the person that the FBI thinks is the actual kidnapper, or could be, but the Bitcoin guy ransom. And he just said, the FBI is inundated with, fakes all the time. And, they do prosecute people for that. He kind of, Kelsa Kinsley was her name. Yeah. But Kinsley was spelled without the E, and Kelsa was Kelsa, the name of my cat, because she's Kelsa Kinsley Kitty. I just saw that and I was like, oh my God, like, what's going on? Oh, thank you, Kinsley. Where are you coming in from? So somebody, did a video about it. Somebody, I guess this was a Reddit post. I have it screenshotted in my phone, and then I had to print it out multiple times and try to paste it all together so it would be in the right order. It's quite much, but basically the person says their first observation, and this is regarding ransom note number 2, which is the so-called death notice. KVOA is channel 4, NBC in Tucson. Oh, okay. Thank you, Nanette. This person said there was an apology. There was no apology reported. Then there was reporting inferring the unintentional admission as an apology. Okay, that doesn't even make sense. Banfield relays the person she spoke with saw the note, parentheses, Brianna Whitney. I guess she's the one who worked for KOLD in Tucson, and it did use the word sorry. We are truly sorry. So if or it says, if so, it is more info, in my opinion, in the column of this being a total amateur perp who is a novice and not criminally sophisticated. I have to agree with that. Yes, Kinsley, they're still handling this case, as is supposedly the Pima County Sheriff's Office, but, I don't have much hope in that respect. Okay, now let me just slow down for a minute, folks. Now I'm getting more freaked out, Kinsley. You're in Canada. Where in Canada, if you don't mind me asking? Because that's where the great Kelsa Kinsley is from. Actually, she's from Vancouver. But she lived in the United States at the time that I knew her and the time that she died. And by the way, my dad was Canadian. Now I'm really getting freaked out because Kelsers and then Kinsley, Ontario. Yeah, she lived there too at one time. Look her up. You'd probably know who she is, depending on your age. Look up Kelsa Kinsley, or just go to her IMDb page, and you can see all about her. She's more known in Canada than she was in the United States. That's just freaky to me, okay? Maybe it's a sign. Who knows? Anyway, it can't be a bad thing. Banfield is in Canada. I know. Okay. So it says, hello, Savannah. Hello as a greeting can be perceived as closeness. Kelser says your dad was from Vancouver. Okay, now you're really starting to freak me out, people. If you haven't seen the video, go to my Rest in Peace playlist and you can see everything there is to know, at least publicly speaking. I'm not going to talk about private stuff, but you can see the great Kelsa Kinsley. And every time I see you Kelsers, I stumble. And I almost call you Kels, and then I'm like, oh, I can't do that. Even though I love you. And now I got Kinsley PE, who says she's been here. She's been a lurker. I guess are you a woman or are you a man? April, you've been saying that for a while. Unsophisticated. Absolutely. So let's go back. Let me just, I got to stop looking at the screen for a moment because I'm going to fall out of my chair. Hello, Savannah. Hello as a greeting can be perceived as closeness. Unfortunately, the Pima County Sheriff released a lot of info, probably too much pre-ransom, so it complicates it. Kinsley is a man. Okay. Things like shortly after and perished. I thought that was an interesting term, perished. Glosses over that it was the result of an armed, forced abduction. Like it's just some unfortunate thing that happened to have happened. Not the result. This is distancing from a psychological standpoint, but I also wonder if it's also because it's someone who had nothing to do with it directly, involved but not there when it happened, or someone totally uninvolved and can I say this? Opportunistically attempting to sound a certain way and get the money. Now remember, the first ransom not only talked about the Apple Watch and the broken strobe, but apparently it said that the Apple Watch, the white Apple Watch, which you could see that on the Today Show because she had made appearances speaking about Nancy, they specifically said it was on the floor. And apparently that's where they found the watch, because I had originally heard it was in the charger on the nightstand, but now there's a report that that white Apple Watch was on the bedroom floor. So if that's true, maybe that's why the FBI tend to believe the first ransom. And then the second ransom apparently came from the same writer, as we've been told. But, I don't have them in my hands to see that. I think the apology coming right off the bat in the note, which it sounds like it did, not sure, because, we haven't seen the note, would mean it really was some form of guilt and to get it out there, rather than some afterthought or placating, like just throwing it in somewhere. Banfield, meaning Ashley, suggests translation being involved with words like perish. It will be more evident maybe with the full text, which they claim is going to be released by CBS. I kind of doubt that at this point, because that's a piece of evidence. The actual CIA, roll on. Rose Margaret says yes on the floor. Hi, Suzanne. Many said the phone and the watch were in their chargers. Yes, that's true. As were the hearing aids, supposedly. Hello, V-Miss. I do think that her dying shortly after she was taken lines up to some degree with that timeline. The first ransom demand was sent about 24 hours after the abduction. And see, that's weird. That makes no sense. That occurred on February the 1st. They would have been bluffing for the intended goal of a payout. The offender likely attempted to proceed with the initial ransom demand anyway, just hoping the family would pay the Bitcoin blindly before realizing the kidnapper had no proof of life to offer. I don't think Savannah and the FBI are that stupid to have paid without proof of life, and they didn't. The abductor in the note specifically attempted to cut that out of play by saying there will be no more communication. But the Guthries did demand the police. The FBI responded to the investigation by February the 5th. Yeah, 4 days later. Hello, hearts of gold. Welcome in, my friend. And it dominated the headlines. The intense heat led to a lot of the panic. The first deadline was set for February the 5th. In those 5 days, that gap of time and the family's unwillingness brought them to reality. By February 6th, they sent the news that she had died unintentionally. Shortly after she was taken, it was damage control, maybe a ditch effort to still get the payout. Yeah, we still don't know if these are legit, but the FBI thinks that they were. I hope you're feeling better, hearts. I saw your Facebook post yesterday. Using the pronoun we can be a linguistic way to share blame. It makes the mistake or wrongdoing feel less heavy. Now, this is just this person's opinion. Safety in numbers. It may or may not mean more than one person. A lone person could still use we to cope. I say that all the time on my channel, we, and it's just me, the cat, and the bunny. It will be interesting to see if any shifts was made and if the I pronoun is used at all in the note. Because remember, we haven't seen the note. I had not heard the info about Annie and the angle of people getting out of prison. I don't know what she's talking about. Assuming this is written by a woman. I had not heard the info about Annie and the angle of people getting out of prison. There's something about Annie in the note? What is this? Does anybody know? That is very important victimology, in my opinion. Not my opinion, but whoever wrote this. I had not heard the info about Annie. Okay, what does that mean? I had not heard the info about Annie. Does anybody know what that means? Total speculation on my part until more text is released. If the note is not a hoax, it is beginning to sound like a scenario to me where there may have been a person with access to Nancy in some capacity, an employee, a medical worker, some acquaintance, or something like that, which has always seemed a possibility. But someone not acting on their own, someone who had a dominant partner who was informed of who Nancy was and hatched up this plan for financial gain. It didn't lean as much this way to me as far as a submissive person involved until seeing the note seemingly has a lot of leakage of guilt. Maybe the submissive person was assured she won't get hurt. We will get rich. And she went along with it, or they went along with it. Then something went wrong. ETA and the submissive partner are the ones who authorize the communications, or is the one who authorized or authored the communications and are expressing remorse. It needs to be explained why a kidnapper would give two damns about perceptions or impressions and not just say point blank that she had died and we will tell you where she is, but we want money. I kind of agree with that one. Cody, welcome in. Thank you so much. Yeah, hearts were thinking about you. Let's see. I agree, and I'm trying not to curse here, but that's what they wrote. It needs to be explained why a kidnapper would give two damns about perceptions or impressions and not just say point blank that she had died and we will tell you where she is, but we still want our money. Because, yeah, that's what this is about. Perhaps it was just manipulative to seem sympathetic and salvage the payout, but it is atypical. Of course, everything about this case is atypical. There's nothing about this that's typical. Nobody spends 41 minutes in a kidnapping. Nobody sends notes to news stations and TMZ. Still, the possibility of it was someone who wanted Savannah to suffer. Very possibly. There wasn't anything you could have done is suggestive of that. It leaves the family, maybe specifically Savannah, torturing themselves with the idea that they were completely powerless. Kidnapping and assault is often about power. High power and sadistic control for the perp. The words of the note may seem like leaking guilt or that there is remorse, but really the author could have spent time thinking about how to maximize the psychological impact of their words on Savannah. It was never about money, which would explain no contact with the family. I just broke too, the person claiming to TMZ to know who the kidnapper is and where Nancy is buried is suspected to be a woman. Yeah, that's Bitcoin ransom guy, which would fit into that dominant, submissive relationship. Like the FBI said, often a girlfriend, an ex-wife, a scorned lover, somebody like that could come forward in the future, although many years in the future, as a potential witness. It is often a romantic partner or ex that plays a critical role in exposing a criminal. Yeah, I think this was on Reddit. I don't see who the poster was. These were just screenshots, but it was interesting, especially since this week more information came out about that second letter. So that was from a ransom note. Yeah, this, if you have watched the last few videos, there was a somebody leaked the second ransom note that only went to KOLD that said that Nancy had died. And the family knew that on February 6th, and they made a statement on February the 7th saying they wanted to celebrate. And I knew then that behind the scenes, they pretty much already knew that she was gone. Just to catch you up a little bit, hearts. Kelsers coming in with a $1.99 super chat. First one of the day. Thank you so much. If it is someone who wanted Savannah to suffer, who is the likely suspect? That's a good question, because that goes all the way from some obsessed stalker to possibly even someone in the family. Remember, Savannah factor or somebody close to her or a little bit of both. But this is definitely targeted and it's definitely about money. SR71 girl, welcome back, my friend. This is horrific. This seems so torturous for the family. It does. And I still don't know who leaked that second ransom this past week. But, something needs to happen here. As I said before, and I'll say it in a nice way, the cops and the FBI, they need to crap or get off the pot with this. This is dragging out too long. But yet, I know they want all their ducks in a row before they nab somebody. Soon as the family said celebration of life, that was the 7th, based on this second ransom that came the 6th. Yeah. Hey, Kathy Doherty. It is scary, Kinsley. This is so scary. I'm a PI and I see stuff like this, but this is something I lay awake in bed at night all these months later and I think about it every night. Kelsers? Gosh, we think a lot alike. I think, in my opinion, Annie is jealous of Savannah, of course. Sometimes, siblings are on one end of the scale or the other, but everybody makes their own bed and has to sleep in it. Everybody's free to make their own choices in life. Wonder why they don't just pay the 1 part Bitcoin and yes, crap. That's a good question. Because even Harvey Levin said, hey, we can do a documentary and TMZ can pay that. And the FBI, who had been ghosting him for months, finally said, stand down because we're getting closer. What does that mean? Is something going to break this week? Are they that close? Or is the case gonna run cold again this week? Because this past few days, a lot has come out about this. Hey, Renee Brown. Thank you, Hart. She says, I agree, April. Jay, yeah, I'm thinking a jealous family member. Worst way to hurt Savannah. Yeah, but like I said, everybody is in charge of their own life, I mean, things happen, like health stuff, like myself and yourself, Jay, and, things happen that, you're sometimes life throws you a curve and, the road splits and, sometimes you get back on the right track and sometimes you don't. But, Savannah has her life, Cameron has his life, and Annie and Tommaso have their lives. And, they all chose what they chose. April, you will solve this before the police. I wish I could. And not for the money, although that would definitely help me. Geez. I could actually pay, I could bring somebody on to help me, part-time with little things. There are some photos of both girls growing up, and some photos Annie looks like she's had enough with her sister. I think I know which ones you're talking about, Nanette. Sassy Granny. Everybody give her a big shout out. I'm not going to say what it is until I have it, but I got an email last night on my my personal account from Amazon saying that someone had purchased something off my wish list. Was it you, my friend? And it was just like, I was absolutely mind blown. I almost cried because it's one of the top things that I have needed and wanted for so long because it'll help me with the channel. So if that was you, I think it was Sassy. I don't even know what to say. You've already done so much. Thank you. I will show it. In fact, I will be using it during my broadcast as soon as I receive it. SR71 girl. Maybe they do know she's gone, and that's why Savannah was able to go back to work, because she had some closure to a degree. Is she keeping quiet at the direction of the FBI? Absolutely. You're right on both points. Renee says, are you a man or a woman, Renee Brown? It could be. Oh, I read it wrong. I thought you said like I could be I was like, what? No, it could be a deranged fan of Savannah as well. Absolutely. I see it all the time. Before we knew this was a kidnapping, because we didn't know that right away. It took a while for all these pieces of the puzzle to, the small pieces that we have to come out. The very first night when I read about it in the middle of the night, and I was like, oh my God, the 84-year-old mother of Savannah Guthrie has been kidnapped. And it didn't say anything about a kidnapping. Renee is a woman. Okay. I just read that wrong. Uh-oh. One of our usual trolls. Everybody, remember, don't respond to the trolls. I just like to pause them. But I know they'll come back and they'll give me the clicks. Flow State. Welcome, Soulflower. Soulflower sent me the flow state. Appreciate that. Second jewel of the day. Yeah, for the first time since I started this Nancy Guthrie series, I actually had to permanently block somebody. And this person had actually even sent me one super chat one time. But it's a man and it's a troll, almost every single, and I'm just like, you know what? Enough is enough. Goodbye. So he's gone. I don't need the clicks. I just don't need the train going off the track on every single live. Thank you for the sparkles, Healing Oracle 777. April, you are so dear to my heart. I'm going online to see what you need. You don't have to do that. Kelsers coming in with the second super chat of the day. If I'm right. Yes. Well, let me heart the first one. I just can't touch it on my screen because, I don't want YouTube to glitch out and it disappears. Everybody, go give Kelsers a thumbs up on her second super chat of the day. Really, wow, at some point, just get rid of them. Yeah, yeah, we won't be seeing our friend Elijah anymore. He's gone. Now, of course, he can just easily make a new username and come right back. But you're gone, baby. Oh. You know, I've only ever, in my whole 5.5 years on YouTube, I've ever had to block anybody. And that was a woman, and I knew who it was. And I think they were writing me from a mental hospital. And I was like, gone. But they could do the same thing. They could just come in under a different username. That's just amazing to me. I'm really like getting emotional now that Kelsers and Kinsley. I mean, and they're, every time Kelser says something and then Kinsley says something, it's right behind Kelsers. So Kels said something and then Kinsley said something, and I'm just like, and then Kelsers is from Canada. Now Kelsers, or Kinsley, if you said you were a female and you were a tall blonde, I think you might actually see me live fall out of my chair. But you said you were Canadian. Like, this is the second time in the chat that this has happened, that I see something from Kelsers and right afterwards I see something from Kinsley. Like, dang. Nanette says, going, gone. Absolutely. But I'm glad you're not a ghost, Kinsley, that you're actually real. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, other than Nanos making a statement this weekend and implying that the third set of ransoms, which I call one Bitcoin guy, even though that might be a gal, that he believes those to be fake. I haven't heard his speech yet, but it's like all over the news that he made a statement this weekend and said, yeah, the FBI has to deal with that all the time, which is true. There's probably all kinds of fake stuff that we don't even know about that's coming into this case. And then it just distracts from, the manpower, the hours, consumed to weed those people out and not be able to, investigate the real tips that are coming in. It's just like here, like most of you guys are legit and you're supportive of me and the channel, and we're all here for the same goal. Hashtag, justice for Nancy. But then there's these few yahoos that come in and throw the train off the track and distract everybody. And, we just don't need that. Like, it's just the facts. Let's get to the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Let's get this thing solved. Hey, Christy. Okay, well, the Bitcoin demand, not the first one where it was like, we need 4 million in Bitcoin, and then we need 6 million in Bitcoin if we don't get it by this day. And then it turns out that Bitcoin guy, like one Bitcoin guy, started writing in February, possibly even before the second ransom note came in talking about her being deceased. But we didn't know about what was in that note until the end of last week. So if you're talking about that guy, those demands started coming in February, and then they just hadn't heard from him again. And now this all started up again last week because that Bitcoin guy or gal, as the FBI seems to think now, that it could be a woman, started writing TMZ again on Friday. In fact, twice. And I've got multiple videos about the latest. And now everybody's speculating, is that guy for real? Have they ever shown proof of life? No. And apparently by February the 6th, only 5 days after this happened, it was already reported by someone who they think is credible that she had already died. Kelsers, I hope Savannah realizes her sister is sus. I've said it many times. Everybody here is innocent until proven guilty. And I don't have a clue if they're involved. There are a lot of red flags, but I kind of hope that they're not because, I hope that Savannah Guthrie is not living in a dream world. Rose Festival updates. If you go back and listen to the first video that Saban and the family did, oh, you mean Savannah and the family did, it was interesting. The second video that Savannah did That was the one that I think she knew her mother was dead. Exactly. That video came out February the 7th. That second video that was released by the family that Savannah did, and she was crying, I think she knew what was in the notes because she kept saying, bring back my mother. Yeah, we're willing to pay. We're willing to cooperate. We would like to celebrate with her. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh my God, this woman is already gone. Which, when you think about it, she didn't have her medication, supposedly. So, yeah, I think she went quickly. And considering what she's been through, I would say the quicker the better. Yes, Savannah totally knew by then. And she did, because now that the contents of that note has come out just the last few days, we know that she knew that she was. And they believe that because that note came from the same writer as the first note, and they believe the first note is credible based on things that they knew about the scene of the crime that nobody could know, they thought they were credible. But yet they could still be red herrings that were planted by somebody who's familiar with the crime scene. Like, in other words, instead of this just being a kidnapping for money, this could have been something else, and then was made to look like a kidnapping for money, because typically ransom notes are left at the scene of the crime. They're not sent to TMZ and to the local news stations. Lori Smith, in my opinion, A&T set up to cover for real monsters. That's a possibility. Okay. You know what? If I could do that and I could erase female-related breast cancer, wouldn't that be something? Boy, I would have done that as soon as I got diagnosed. Unbelievable. Oh. Yes, true, April. This could be a red herring. It could be a look here, not there. Exactly. It could be. Because we still don't know who did this and why. We still don't know the motive. Obviously, money, but was it just the Savannah factor, somebody trying to get to Savannah, or was it somebody close to her? Which would include more than just family. My thing is, who has asked anyone at the church? Well, hopefully the FBI has interviewed a lot of people. Welcome in, Anna. I know, Jay, can you believe it? The church is 2,000 miles away. Yeah, but the church is in Manhattan, but they either did a live stream or they did a Zoom over at a friend's house. Lynn brought, I'd pay the $60,000 just to get her body if there's a way to get the cell phone before payment. Now, apparently there's not a way to get the cell phone before payment. That's the problem with this. You were convinced that there are some non-humans living amongst us, probably, but we're not doing a UFO or alien video today. This is just about Nancy. If there are, I wish they would be my neighbors and they could come cure me of all my illnesses. Well, she didn't show up at the friend's house. She hadn't physically gone to church since before the pandemic. And she had switched churches to a church that Savannah had taken her to in Manhattan. And her and a bunch of friends, neighbors, would watch the service together on Sunday mornings. Rose. Yeah, that is true, Rose. It's a little frightening. I'm wondering if I should put emergency supplies on my Amazon wish list. I need to load up on, the cat food, the bunny hay. Well, I got the bunny hay now, but the bunny litter, maybe some more water, some MREs, you never know. Yeah, there wouldn't be witnesses at that physical church, but I think they meant the people that she congregates with every Sunday morning at the friend's house. Hello, Charlotte Elizabeth. Okay, Nanette says Karen from the interview room did a phone interview and she was told Nancy called to have help to walk to the mailbox. Some days, yes, Savannah talked about that from the very beginning, that some days her back pain was so bad that she couldn't walk from the front door to the mailbox. Uh-oh. Goodbye. See you. Bye. Uh-oh. Boy, they're coming in today, aren't they? Is she in Mexico? That's a very good question, Rose. That's a very good question. My thought has always been no, but at this point in the game, anything is possible. Uh, uh, is it just me, but nanotechnology was a little too protective and didn't want anyone around but him? I know, that's kind of weird, isn't it? That was a church friend that Karen interviewed, okay. Yeah, I've got some UFO videos. I got some disclosure videos, Kinsley. Just go to my playlist. We talk about a little bit of everything here. Yeah, I know what you meant, Anna. Yeah, so there is no latest. I just thought this was an interesting perspective about the second ransom that they're just started, well, leaked this past week. Like, was it what, Thursday or Friday that all that started to leak? They always have to go back to day one. If you're an investigator, you know somebody from that house that Nancy was supposed to be at called the sister, and I wonder who that was. It was just a lady that it was the lady that she hosted the meeting that morning called her. But there's a lot of discrepancies on the timeline because Nanos has contradicted himself multiple times. It frustrates me so much I can't imagine how Savannah feels. Exactly. Thank you, SR71 girl. I just wonder who called the sister, and one time they called from the house to say that Nancy's dinner arrived to their home. I don't know what that's about. Exactly. That's the whole point of this Cali girl on fire. I hope this all means they are closer to finding Miss Nancy. Well, the FBI sure sounded that way per their last conversation with Harvey on Friday. Rose, do you remember the sheriff saying that if Nancy doesn't have her medication in 24 hours, she could die? Yes. Do you think she died because of that? Probably. But the kidnappers will still go for murder one because it happened in the commission of another felony, even if she, just naturally passed away because of her lack of medication. Well, why did she couldn't get her medication? Because they had kidnapped her. So they'll still be going down for, murder as well. Which means they could be in for the death penalty. That's why if anybody out there knows anything about this, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Kinsley, you just up. Thank you so much. Oh, what about the APS card left at the door? Who called and when? Nobody called. It was that's already been discovered. Some other YouTube channels made a big unnecessary deal about that. That's typical whenever there's a missing senior that's called into the police. Because remember, she was just a missing senior at the beginning. And, then the case, you know, exploded into this, kidnapping scenario. And then, they got the video of the front porch guy. And that was just a routine thing that when an elderly is reported missing, that a supervisor from Adult Protective Services goes out and they rang the doorbell, not even knowing that like she was still missing, and they left the card on the door. So it's not like somebody had called ahead of time, like, hey, this lady's being abused, or it was just a typical response to a police report. And there was blood at the front door. Yes, there was. Where are A and T? I would love to know. I think everybody here on this chat would love to know. Where's Annie and Tommaso? That's a very good question. Who's paying their mortgage right now? Who's buying their groceries? I've heard everything from a hotel to Italy. You know, it costs to live. I'm probably on most of the same old person meds as Nancy, 24 to 48-hour timeline. I do not think is true. I know for me it would be, because I've had to go off some of mine prior to surgeries and I've almost been dead. Like, I'm affected in like 12 hours, so I wouldn't have lasted more than a day. It's like they dropped off an edge. Oh, you mean it's like they dropped off a ledge? Okay. I was like, what? Okay. Hey, Brian. I haven't heard a peep from them. No. Supposedly they have a son, a minor age child. His nickname is Olmo, something like that. Yeah, I get it, Jay. Cynthia, the house was foreclosed. They're staying in a motel. I haven't heard that, but I'll check it out. If they were going to foreclose, I don't know why they would have paid their property taxes, which they did. I think nanotechnology and Tommaso are in some dirty water and the sister is keeping her mouth shut. Maybe. But remember, everybody here is innocent until proven guilty. SR71, no one's seen or heard a word. Nobody. That's weird. Like they'd have to go out and get food or drive or something, right? What about the kid? Is he in school? Like, what about Tommaso's job? The rumors are that he hadn't worked all year before this even happened, like for the whole school year. Is that true? And he's been taken off the website of the school. Like, what's the deal? All of this is weird. And if they are involved, then I would say I'm sorry that Savannah's living in a dream world, because it's going to be quite a shock. But if they're not, this is a tragedy in every way. You can't remember what YouTuber discovered that. Well, don't believe everything you hear on YouTube. I've had people come into my channel live and say that they just took away Annie and Tommaso in handcuffs, and it wasn't true. I know there was this one case, the woman was missing and she was in her 40s, and the place that will nothing we can do. I don't know what you're saying. And the place that will nothing we can do. She may have been away. Get back to us in 48 hours. Oh, yeah. Sometimes it takes a while. But, you know, when you've got blood at the scene, you don't have to wait 24 to 48 hours. Cynthia says he was fired. I'd love to know if that's true. Yeah, he was a school teacher. He was a 6th grade science teacher, SR71. Okay, their neighbor had been on a few streams and said they haven't been home in a few weeks. Okay. Thank you, Christy. Nanette says he's a biology teacher. It's absolutely devastating for grandchildren if their parents are involved. They'll lose everyone. Yeah. And if they are involved and they go to prison, who takes care of their kid? He's just a little boy. I don't know his exact age, but we also don't know if Annie or Tommaso have adult children from previous marriages or relationships. But supposedly together they have one and it's a boy. It's so sad the teenager of A&T should have a phone. Exactly, Jay. I've said before, my mama said, don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see. Exactly. And for the people that are saying that they're guilty, and I've never said that about anybody on my channel, but for YouTubers or people who publicly, if it's been published or it's been said and said they were guilty and, they're going to probably, get a civil lawsuit thrown at them. Now, you guys can all have your opinions, but, from a liability standpoint, I can't talk on my channel who I think is involved, but I pretty much had my mind made up about some of the possibilities since the second week of February. Annie mails jewelry and travels to shows. That's what I hear, but supposedly she had an Etsy account and it was all shut down while this was going on, so. Okay, Kelsers, don't rush through your dinner. You can always watch me on the replay or come back for the next live. But thank you for coming, Kelsers, and thank you for the super chats. Appreciate you. Yeah, remember, we only know a small piece of the whole puzzle here. I've talked about that before, and I'm not investigating this case. I don't have any more access than you guys do, but I do have the detective experience where, my antenna went up immediately when I heard about this on Sunday night, February 1st, while I was lying in bed, and I was like, oh my God, because of my PI work in Hollywood with celebrities, like right away, I put two and two together and went, oh my God, the mother, Savannah, like, oh my God. You must always say allegedly. Yeah. I haven't been following that, Carson. Uh, yeah, I have to be careful what I say on a live channel. You know the bunny holes to look down. Yeah, I have looked down quite a few rabbit holes in this. But it's probably not going to be that complicated when it's all said and done. Oh, sure. Of course, Rose. I think if they went to a hotel, if I heard for security reasons, probably. I'm sure they're being threatened because if you poll people, 80% of the people that follow this case think that they're somehow involved, even if they're not. And, for their protection and the protection of their child, yeah, they probably did have to leave their house. Oh. I know even some of the YouTubers are trying to get on their property. So I think they're at a hotel. Maybe. The kid can always do schooling online, easy to set up. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Jay. Yes, Rose Margaret said I did say if. Yeah. Well, some YouTubers have gotten a lot of trouble for saying things. I should have said they even had to go to court over this deal. Yeah, some of them are going to court. But we'll let them handle that. If they aren't directly involved, then definitely indirectly. That's a possibility. The whole crew they associate with have records or dark and sketchy. I know, they are kind of dark, aren't they? In my humble opinion, Derek C. didn't have their number on accident. I've said that from day one. They have the same band promoter. Mojito. DJ Mojito promotes Derek Colello's band, The Secret Mutilator, and Tommaso's band. I can never remember. Is it Early Black or Early Dark? I think it's Early Black. Supposedly, that band promoter is connected to both of them, and they play the same type of music in the same weird clubs, and it's all very dark and creepy. You know, if you believe what you hear on the internet, Savannah's sister's a witch. I'm not saying she's a witch, but they're saying she's part of the Wiccan religion or whatever it is. I don't follow that satanic stuff. It really has not looked good for them this entire time. No, it hasn't. I thought this would have been solved by now. Me too. And you got to wonder about these rumors about the relationships that are in this town that were pre-established prior to this crime. Anna says, I'm telling you, there is a part of the please help find our mom, bring her home video, but the sister totally looked like she was going to sit forward and say something. Her body language has been very bizarro from day one. And not Savannah's, but Annie's, yes. But that doesn't mean that they're guilty. They even had to put big no trespassing signs to keep people off the property. Defamation laws are real. Absolutely. Manitoba. Are you in Manitoba, Nanette? Are you Canadian as well? Isn't he a teacher, that guy from Italy? Yeah, he's a teacher, and he is from Italy. Oops, sorry. Okay. Rose, I thought I heard that he was a teacher and everybody at school supports him. I heard that he was a popular teacher, but then I have also heard that he hadn't taught all year, like before this happened. Even though less than a year before this happened, they bought like a $600,000 home. Like, huh? On a school teacher's salary? And his wife's a poet? And she's selling junk on Etsy? Like, huh? But we don't know what their business interests are or their bank accounts. You had no idea about what, SR71 girl? Oh, Kathy Doherty. Thank you for putting up the custom emojis. Just because they are a teacher doesn't mean they aren't a monster. Absolutely. Look how many teachers get arrested for abuse. I had some weird teachers when I was a kid. You know, just like there are weird doctors and there are weird nurses too. Yeah, I haven't seen the people crossing onto the property either. Cali Girl on Fire says, I have watched everyone's live 24/7 and only one person went on the property, none of which are going to court. Yeah, I don't think it's been a big issue at all. There's other custom emojis. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, if you are a member, you can use the custom emojis. Also, apparently, if you're a member, you can go to the little, you don't have to donate anything, but you can go to like the super chat button and you can post like a little box up on the screen, like once a month. YouTube allows you to post like your membership just to like remind everybody in the chat that you're a member. So if you guys, anybody who's a member here, if you can put that up on the screen now, that would be great. Bradley says my autocorrect is on ad meds right now. Okay, no problem. Sandra, you're back. I think the sheriff is the whole lot of trouble, or the whole trouble. A lot of people don't like that. Maybe. Yes, Callie girl, one person with his film crew walked up to the front porch. about all the dark stuff. You had a monster teacher in the 4th grade. Yeah, I had a teacher in the 8th grade. It was a PE teacher, and she was like stalking me. Crazy. And then there was another PE teacher that was in that school and then the high school. And I told my friends that I grew up with that she was going to kill somebody. And the second week of school of the 10th grade, she brought a gun to school and killed somebody, and I almost walked in on it. So I don't know what it was about PE teachers, stalkers and killers. Well, if that was my mother, I would do everything I possibly could to find my mother one or another. Yes. James Smythe, growing up, I never once heard about female teachers mixed up with students, and now I hear about it all the time. What do you think has changed, or has nothing changed? I don't think anything has changed. I think that except for people are talking about it more, because apparently the lady that I almost walked in on shooting and killing another teacher, and I didn't even know her, but I said she was going to kill somebody. She was creeping on female students for years, and just nobody talked about it. Luckily, she was never one of my direct teachers, so scary though. Rose Festival, I'm sorry to say this. The only one that really seems to care, in my opinion, is Savannah. The other two should be speaking out too. I don't understand it. Maybe the FBI doesn't want them speaking, but I would be. I wouldn't be covering my face with a hoodie and my hands. I would be like, help me find my mother. I don't like the body language. Even if they're not involved, I don't like the body language. Even if they're totally innocent, they still creep me out. I could be friends with Savannah easy because she's a lawyer and she's a broadcaster. Like, it'd be like me and Nancy Grace. Like, we hit it off immediately. Like, we could be, good friends. But yeah, I don't like all that creepy dark stuff. It's just creepy to me. Weird Wig, you happened in by accident. Hello, Weird Wig. Yeah, James, I think it's changed, says Rose Margaret. Suzanne says you're a retired teacher. Well, thank you for your service as a teacher. Just got back from Aaron, says Hobble one welcome in. Now remember who the caregiver was, and there's different forms of caregiving. Yeah, I know all about that with being a PI and elder abuse and I've often thought about, wonder if this had happened in my family. And by the way, as far as kidnapping, yeah, that happened in my family, but decades before I was born. But it messed people up for decades to come. And I've often thought, if my mother were still alive, because she was Savannah Guthrie's mother's age, she was 84 when she passed a few years ago. I've often thought about that because my sister and her lived together. And what if she disappeared? Like, would I suspect my sister? No, I wouldn't, because she was worth more to my sister living than she would have been as a dead person, because my mom had not worked and she didn't have any assets and she had nothing but debt. But she did have a little bit of income from my dad's Social Security. So my mother would be she would be worth more alive to them than she would be dead. Now, on the other hand, this lady, she has $1 million home. She was married. She had 3 kids. Her husband died when he was young. I think he was 49. This woman brought in her mother and her handicapped brother and was their caregivers and their providers, and went and got a job and raised, 3 kids, at least 2 of which turned out to be successful. I don't know enough about Annie to say that she was or she wasn't, but supposedly she was the primary caregiver because she was local. But, I've seen these things in my own family where, people creep on people for money. And so, just because of my own situation, not me personally, but in my own family, and seeing some of the tragedies that have happened over the years, and some of the, actual crimes that have occurred. It's like, this has really made me think, like, especially being a PI too and seeing elder abuse, and, it's very, very possible that somebody close to her, and not necessarily family, but somebody that worked for her or knew her or was on her property or lived in her casita, or could be a landscaper, it could be a pool man, it could be a delivery driver, who knows? But whoever did this, even though I think these were unsophisticated yahoos, these were not professional kidnappers. I do think that they were probably hired by someone, or they were tipped off by someone who had a connection to the home because they knew about the cameras, the systems, or the lack thereof. So that doesn't exclude even immediate family. It doesn't mean that they did it or that they're involved, but they have to be on the suspect list. And as far as I know, the FBI, besides looking at Nancy's house, there's only one other house that they looked at for weeks and weeks and weeks, and that was Annie Tomaso's. They had Annie Tomaso's car for 41 days. Now, did they raid Luke Daly's house? Yes, they did, but only for a couple of hours. And a day or two later, when Luke had his car taken at the Culvers, they gave it back. They gave it back. Carlos, who was the first person of interest, they never even took his vehicle or any vehicles on his property, including a white van that he had disabled that he used for deliveries. And he said, "Oh, it's broke down right now. It's at the house." Like, they didn't even take that. Like, and those were people who's had their homes raided. They didn't take their cars, or if they did, like Luke's, they only had it a day or two and they just drained the battery. That was it. It was a little dusty. Okay, sorry, here's your car back. End of story. We still haven't seen copies of not the arrest warrants, because there were never arrest warrants. There were just search warrants. Nobody's seen copies of those, including them apparently, which is like, well, how do they search your house and they don't give you a copy of the warrant? I don't understand that. But yet the family, who's supposedly so innocent, according to Savannah, that's where the cops and the FBI spent all their time. They spent more time looking at them and their house and their car than they have looking at Nancy Guthrie's. The crime scene was released in the first 20 to 30 hours. They didn't even have a car for like 6 weeks, maybe 7. Like, what does that tell you? It doesn't mean that they did it, but they're definitely top of the list. I have to hydrate. I just felt my heart go. Little fluttering there. It was good to learn over the weekend some of the people that sent the ransom notes to TMZ will be facing charges similar to what Derek from California will be facing. Well, if they're fake, yeah. And if they're real, they might be facing kidnapping or being an accomplice of a kidnapper. Nanette says she had a PE teacher that got fired for stalking students. Yeah, I wonder if it was the same one I had. Yeah, I got stalked in the 8th grade. And then the teacher that everybody had warned me about since the 5th grade, she transferred out of the high school into my junior high school, and I was so shocked to see her. And nobody could figure out how I recognized her because I didn't go there till the 8th grade. But I remembered a yearbook photo, and it was a nondescript photo of a black female. But yet there was something about the face and the eyes. And I told my friend she had killer eyes and that she was probably going to kill somebody because she wasn't just mean. Like, to me, she looked like she was a crazy person. And in the 10th grade, she did. She brought a gun to school and killed another teacher who was also a PE teacher. And I almost walked in on it. Crazy stuff in my life, let me tell you. My life was changed forever. So you're not safe anywhere. And, this was before there were those kinds of things like violence in schools. That happens all the time now. But when I was a kid, that was unheard of. Let's see. This is why we don't understand it, because we only have one side. Exactly, Cali girl. I would not think the FBI would not want anyone speaking. Why do you think the FBI supports Nanos' silence? I don't know. Suzanne, thumbs up, thank you. Yes, at the beginning of this, there were many people walking on the different properties that should have never been on the properties. Absolutely. Of course not. They should have been secured. It was a crime scene. You got to wonder. What were they thinking? Welcome, open mind. And there were a lot of people walking around on Annie's property too, right at the beginning. I wasn't aware of that happening as much as at Nancy's. SR71, I'm with you, April. I don't like the dark stuff either. I know, I'll keep that away from me. Me too. Even as a PI, I'm creeped out by that. When you do an investigation, you do not allow people to come on the property until the investigation is over. Should have been. They released it to the family, who were the top suspects at the beginning. Yeah, my friend is a private detective in the police department. And he said, when you do an investigation, you don't allow people on the property. Hello, Lady Shore. I do give Annie Guthrie credit, although I do highly find her behaviors troubling. She was the one who was there caring for her mother, and it is a lot of responsibility. I know. I hope she isn't involved in the crime. Yeah, the people that were caring for my mother took financial advantage. She ended up bankrupt. How do you end up bankrupt when everything is free? But when you don't work and you don't have money coming in, it costs money just to live, just to see the doctor and pick up prescriptions at the pharmacy. And she didn't have a car or a house. She had nothing. But still people were taking advantage. So, if this had happened to my mother, those would be the last people I would suspect because they wouldn't financially gain from it. And it's sad. It's really sad when people make those kinds of choices in their life. And I think Nancy Guthrie, she was just the opposite. She was like 84 and she was like, I'm not selling my house. I'm not giving up my freedom and my independence. That's why I just adore her so much. That's what I'm wondering about Luke. That was a federally signed warrant by a judge for the raid of his mother's house. Yes. You can make a lot of money caregiving. Yes. Thank you, Jane. It's my free Twins jersey. And, I still don't have any more baseball mail. I don't know what happened with that. I wonder if somebody within the post office started taking the mail because that was coming to my home address instead of my business address because I didn't want to pay the pickup fees. Yeah, you can make a lot of money on that, Rose. Christy, in my opinion, hired kidnapping for money from Savannah. But Nancy didn't make it, and then it went to Plan B, and that's where I think Nanos may have come into play to mess up evidence. Very possible, Christy. Just saying. Oh, but we don't know. I think Annie Tomaso's home was looked at and grounds checked around 4 or 5 times, at least. They even came back at night with special equipment. I think they were doing luminol testing with black lights. Rose, Nancy wanted to go to a care center and nursing home, and I don't blame. Nancy wanted to go to a care center, and I don't blame her. Something from the church said that. And so she wanted to stay in home. Okay, it could go either way. I don't understand what you're saying. How am I so high in the air? I have a green screen in the back. Is this the person that messes with me all the time and says, "Ha, I'm just messing with you"? Oh gosh. Is that why you became a PI, April? Because I almost walked in on the shooting? That's part of it, yeah. But I wanted to be a police detective. I did not want to be a private investigator. That just, bad eyes. Happened by accident. But I was kind of born with my investigative instincts. But yeah, it kind of kicked in because there was a bad crime that happened in our town when we were on a vacation, and two people we knew were kidnapped and murdered from a local grocery store, and we knew them. That really affected me as a child. And everything I predicted about that case came true, even though I was just a little kid. And it's funny because my mom had a friend who introduced me to the sheriff when I was like 10, and he found out like my theory and said, "Boy, she's right on. Like, she's right on the money." Like, and eventually it was solved. And then just about the time that was solved, the person that I had predicted would kill somebody, even though I never met her a day in my life, she did, and I was there to almost walk in on it. Changed my life forever. And pretty soon thereafter, I was out of that school and we were out of that town, and we never looked back. And then soon after that, I was 18 and I came home and, starting my life on my own. Idaho 4 crime scene torn down quick. Look at that something if they came to your home. They said, "We're here to investigate. You've been accused of a crime." Wouldn't that be crazy? Sure. But come on in. You mean about Annie Tomaso's house? I know. Open mind. What happened to the good old days when people had mother-in-law suites connected to their houses so grandma could live right next to them? Exactly. Sure. Some of these police, when they show up, they just storm right in and you could be innocent. Exactly. Everybody should be a suspect until you've arrested a suspect or suspects. Who's a twin? Kinsley, are you a twin? Everybody's a suspect, exactly. You've had an interesting life, to say the least, for the good and the bad. Now I'm just trying to survive every day. I really wish there was more to talk about today, but I just thought this was an interesting take now that that second ransom note, at least the contents of it were released, even though we don't actually have a copy of the note. That has not been released, but the note basically letting the family know that she had died. That was apparently addressed to Savannah. Yeah, I figured this from that day forward, not the day that they got the note, but the day that Savannah and the family, sat together and Savannah made the second speech. I was like, oops, they know something, don't they? And now it's all kind of slipping out. Let's just get the people that did this arrested. Yes, the TMZ did tell, or the FBI did tell TMZ to back down. They said specifically stand down. Welcome in, George. Any man in America that can grow a mustache could be the porch perp from the evidence Cash Patel gave us from the doorbell camera. Just about, huh? I agree with you, April. I believe the FBI is getting closer. Why release a second ransom note contents unless trying to flesh out someone? We don't know who leaked it. I think it was probably someone from KOLD, obviously. I don't think it was the police. I can't stand TMZ. Yeah, they didn't even have a copy of that. They didn't have a copy of the second ransom. It wasn't them. They didn't leak it. Unless somebody sent it to them, but I don't think they leaked it because they didn't have it. Went to KOLD. That's the first place you look. Justice for Nancy, says Jane Rice. Lady Shore says, we do all have our stories. Yes, not always easy. Bless your heart, successful PI. Thank you. Yeah, we all got something, don't we? Now I understand when people get old and they get sick and, you know, they're up to here and doo-doo, they're just like, you know what? Rest in peace. Like you keep going, but when somebody passes and they're old and they've been through so much, it's like, may they rest in peace. And I think Nancy went through so much. I hope that she went quickly and peacefully. Because I mean, obviously she's no longer with us, and I just hope she didn't suffer more than she probably did. Hobble one. Every other hour there's content creators clickbaiting third, like there's a big break, bombshell suspect, and it's nothing. Exactly. Because they're professional YouTubers. I'm not. I hope she didn't suffer. Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine? This case is going to tie up the courts for years, not just with suspects that may get arrested in the future on this case, but for the YouTubers that were arrested, and then the civil suits that are going to come down from this. And once they finally have a suspect, if that person gets convicted and is sentenced to prison, then all the people who weren't involved that got accused, they're going to start suing people. This is going to drag out in the courts forever and ever and ever. This will probably be going on long past my lifetime. This is a cluster F, if you know what I'm saying. What a tragic way to exit a great life. I know. And she had so much adversity in her life. And she, stood proud and raised those kids, and even brought her mother and her handicapped brother who had Down syndrome to come stay with them and live in that beautiful house and, work part-time that eventually led to another part-time job and eventually turned into a career. And she still managed to have her inner circle of friends and to find happiness in her life. And what a tragic way. Do you know a podcaster thinks he saw a drone in Porchman's backpack? Haven't heard that one. My poor hubby just got scratched by the cat. Everyone say, ah, ah. Hey, Roger. Meow. And my animals went berserk last night. I couldn't sleep, thinking about this case. And I'm like, God, I got to go to sleep. I can't be, going to bed at sunrise with the vampires. And then when I can't sleep, I have to get up and use the bathroom. And then I thought somebody was watching me. And then I turned on a light and the cat was up on the refrigerator. And she was like this. Like she was like a statue. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? And she wouldn't move. She was just. So then I try to go back to bed again. And I'm like, oh my God, the sun's going to be coming up. And I heard like some kind of noise like around my desk. And I thought, oh no. And I get up, and sure enough, Bunny, who knows she's not supposed to be over here, she was creeping around. And that's where all my wires are. And I try to have everything protected, but she's already cut my internet twice and broke several of my items that were around my TV, my VCR, my Lemetric clock twice, my Amazon Alexa. Like, oh, now she's going to talk to me. I shouldn't have said that. But, okay, be quiet, Amazon. Alexa. No. Alexa, shut off. Alexa, turn it off. God, I shouldn't have said the word. But, it was like, what's going on? The cat on the refrigerator, like, staring at me in the middle of the night from another room. And then the bunny decided she's going to get brave. And she's going to try to go get those wires. And it's called the spicy hay. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, Bunny. I call her Bunny. That's her nickname. Bunny, Bunny. What are you doing? And she immediately starts, like running away. Like, I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. And then I'm like, oh my God, my wires. Like, oh my God. I don't know what was going on last night. And then, I have nightmares about this case. And, like, I just want this to be solved so I can get a good night's sleep. We all need to get a good night's sleep. I've increased my security on top of what I've already had. And then my cat discovered the new camera. And I get this notification. It's in black and white because it's the middle of the night. And she's like looking at the camera and just her little head is sticking up. And I'm like, oh my God, how did she know that was there? We had a cat that protected us kids much like a dog would. Yeah, I had a cat like that too as a child. Her name was Pumpkin. And when we moved to DC, we had a 2-story house, and she would sit up right outside my bedroom at the top of the stairs every night and guard us. And when we lived in the South before that, and it's really creepy. I mean, we lived in a very, clean home, but when you live in the South, there's creepy crawlers that get in the house, and there was 3 doors, and she would alternate through the night and guard the doors just in case. Ugh. So when she didn't have to worry about that in Maryland, she stayed at the top of the stairs. She would go to sleep. She would wait till I fell asleep, and then she'd very quietly leave. And then she would stand guard at the top of the stairs to make sure that the family was okay. So she was definitely our guard kitty. And Callie, sometimes I would borrow a lizard or snake for a few days, then take them back where I found them and let them go. You're not a cat person. That's okay. Oh, I don't even want to talk about that, Suzanne. It'll give me PTSD from my childhood. Yikes. I want to move someplace where there are no insects. Is there a place like that on the planet? But I don't know what got into them. Even the bunny, who's not a normal bunny, they're supposed to hop in Binky, where they kind of do like a half hop and a spin and a whoo. She was doing that yesterday, and she never does that. She's 4 years old. And I heard something, and she was spinning around her litter box, and she's not in a cage. She has a pen, but it's open. She has access to the whole apartment. But she was in her little area, and she was just like doing the spins, and I was like, oh my God, what's getting ready to happen? Like, that's not normal for her. That's normal for a rabbit, but she's not a normal rabbit. What's going on? And then the cat sitting there like on top of the refrigerator, not moving when I was walking through the dark trying to get to the bathroom, and I thought, there's somebody in my kitchen watching me. I just had that feeling somebody's watching me. And there was. And then I still couldn't go to bed because an hour later I hear things moving around near my desk, and I'm like, oh no. Oh my God. It's Bunny, and she's trying to get the spicy hay. Like, oh my God, am I ever going to get to bed? And she knows. As soon as I walked in the living room, she was just like, I'm out of here. Hobble one. April and August or October. In Cali, the tarantulas cross remote roads in early pre-dusk. I've not seen one ever, and I've lived in California most of my life, but they are here. There's even scorpions here to a degree in certain areas. But I've never seen a scorpion or a tarantula here. Well, I've seen one that was somebody's pet, and I've also was at a birthday party for a little kid, and a big one sat on my head and went down the side of my face, and it was like as big as my hand. That doesn't bother me. Oh. We have a 3-legged kitty. She would run out sometimes behind our tall shrubs. Yeah, that happens here like every day. Animals getting attacked and killed by coyotes, but I'm glad she was saved. Oh, geez. Yeah, you got to keep the pets inside here. We have a lot of wildlife here. It's funny when she gets really rowdy at night. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to sleep, and this S has got to stop. And do you want me to just open the front door right now, and you can leave. It's your choice. But of course, I would never do that because would I would die without her. The Kardashians had a breeding pair in the pool patio area. You mean tarantulas or coyotes? You saw a scorpion in Pine Valley, California. I don't know where Pine Valley is, but I've heard cases even from people as close as Burbank up in the hills. They have scorpions, and I know over in West Hills they have the tarantulas that come out like once a year and run down the street. Like, yeah, oh, the tarantulas. Yeah, I don't want to see one like in my apartment or something. Like, and we do have a few spiders here. We had one the other night, and my cat went crazy and woke me up, and it was on the ceiling, and I was like, ah, I have to go to bed. Well, I talked for 91 minutes, and we only spent about 10 minutes talking about Nancy. So if you're coming in late on this, just go back to the beginning, and you can see my little synopsis here that I read. I think it was Reddit. It was somehow I screenshotted it in my phone and managed to print it out, but there's not a lot of news. Let's just pray that this gets solved. Thank you. I don't know if she's still here, but Kelsers, she sent the 2 super chats today. Also got $1.06 in jewels. Thank you to the people that sent the jewels. Yeah, LA, there's a lot of spiders. But I'd rather see that than something else. Ugh. Yeah, I still have PTSD from childhood living on the Gulf Coast. Okay, well, I guess that's it. Nobody has any more comments. 45 people still in the room. Kind of hate to leave 45 people still in the room, but love Nancy's home, but would be afraid there being so dark and such a lot of space being alone. I know. I could never live in a place that had, like 6 different doors like that. There'd have to be a lot of people in that house for me to feel safe. And it'd have to be more secure because, I'm not used to living in a big house. Take care. April prayers will be answered. It's a matter of time. Yeah, good night, everybody. I appreciate everybody coming. You guys go have something good to eat for dinner.